The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. Bringing you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
Did you see how that Kentucky-Georgia game was called?
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Kentucky basketball loses to Georgia by 13 on the road. 82-69 is the final score. And ladies and gentlemen, if you look like me, Stevie Wonder in an officiating uniform, you could have officiated this game. It was one of the worst officiating performances that I have seen in my entire life. The calls that were simultaneously missed and the calls that were simultaneously made were so egregious at halftime. I immediately ran down to the store to get myself a pair of cheap sunglasses so that I could pull this bit off, to be honest with you. Guys, this was absolutely disgusting. Georgia, coming into this game, we knew they're a physical team. They have a lot of big men that are super talented that can dominate down low, grabbing boards. They dominate in the paint in terms of efficiency, shooting the basketball. Somto Cyril is a really, really good player. Asa Newell, five-star freshman. They've got really good guys down low. The officiating crew allowed them to play however they wished. Somto Cyril was able to do literally whatever he wanted in the paint and outside the arc when he was guarding Brandon Garrison. You cannot put both hands on a player's hips or their forearm and push them out of the stance that they're in if they're on the three-point line looking to make a pass. You cannot do that. That is a foul, and the officiating crew did not call it at all tonight. Kentucky was allowed to be manhandled, and anytime Kentucky did anything that could have been ticky-tack or light, they called it over and over and over and over again. Almost every single call in this game that could have been 50-50 went against Kentucky. Almost every single call that could have been 80-20 that could have gone against Georgia went against Kentucky. This was absolutely pathetic. And you can sit here and tell me, sure, maybe Kentucky, could they have shot better? Yes. Could they have rebounded a little bit better? Absolutely. You cannot win a game like this with the way that it was being called tonight. It is the start and end of this conversation. You say Kentucky should have shot better. If they had allowed them or not allowed them to be as physical on Kentucky, maybe they could have gotten some cleaner looks. Well, you could have finished better at the rim. If they had called more fouls on Kentucky at the rim, then maybe Kentucky would have gotten to the free throw line and they would have been able to execute more points there. This is one of the worst we got jobbed officiating performances I have seen. This takes me back to, I believe it was either 2022 or the 2021 season where we played at LSU. Severe Wheeler got clobbered in that game. Almost nothing was called. Davion Mintz got clobbered in this game. Almost nothing in that game. Almost nothing was called. This is an egregious. It's an indictment on the way that the game is being called. You cannot play basketball like this. You cannot continue to play basketball like this. This is so disappointing. And I want to say, I'll say this. Georgia is a good team. They're a good team. I said it in the preview, and I'll say it again. This is a good team that was going to put up a dogfight one way or another. Some people online didn't see it that way. The reality of the situation is it's hard to win on the road, and a lot of it has to do with the way that the game is going to be called. Yes, it absolutely sucks. Yes, Kentucky got jobbed. I firmly believe they got jobbed, which we'll get into the numbers, but holy freaking cow. How are you supposed to respond if you're Kentucky? How are you supposed to play your game if you are being physically manhandled every single trip down the floor and they're calling almost nothing? Almost nothing. And you may look at it and say, okay, well, Georgia was called for 20 fouls. It took forever to get there. The third foul in the second half was called with like a little over 11 minutes to go. You cannot play basketball like this with the way that the game was called. It is just egregious. It is just absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wear this I'm going to wear this official jersey until we find a game here that feels like it was called competently. The reality of the situation again It's hard to win on the road. It's hard to win on the road against a team that was 12-2. You don't just stumble upon 12-2. Georgia is a good team. They've got a very good front court. Very good front court. But they were not officiated properly tonight. Frankly, if I were Georgia and I realized 5 minutes into this game, hey, they're going to let us do whatever we want, I would have called the same game. If I were Mike White, I would have said, go in there, throw elbows, hand check everybody, and throw people on the ground for rebounds whenever you're going for a rebound, and make them call it differently. I would have done the exact same thing. Unfortunately, you're not going to get that benefit if you're Kentucky and you're playing on the road. That's just part of it. Something else I want to point out here real quick, that's also the case for everybody else in the SEC. Every other team in the SEC is going to suffer from this. It is going to be a dogfight for every single opponent that wants to travel on the road and try and play semi-competent basketball. It's going to be a free throw contest if the home team wants to make it one. This, again, ridiculous. The problem is there's nothing that you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. If you want to try and play more physical, like Kentucky did at different points, you'll get called for fouls. If you want to try and maybe let things go, you're going to give up easy buckets. It's just part of it. It's just the reality. You need to buckle up now. If you are a Kentucky fan listening to this, the reality is, and I keep saying reality, right? Buckle up, sober up. It's going to be a bumpy ride until tournament time. Mark Pope has put together a team that is capable of getting hot and making a run in the SEC and NCAA tournaments. It's going to require different officiating, and it's going to require the team to just start shooting better at some point this season. Full stop. Brian, the YouTube comments, if you're watching this live, by the way, thank you so much. If you're listening on the postcast, we are currently live on YouTube recording this. Brian says, Andrew Carr getting choke slammed to the ground with hands fully around his neck confirms these refs should be suspended. Do they have money on this game or what? I believe the refs are unionized, if I'm not mistaken, so we can't do anything about this. But yeah, you want to go back and look. Carr was going for a rebound. He got choke slammed onto the ground. They didn't call anything. They did not call anything. The response to anybody that says Kentucky should have done X, Y, or Z in this game better. It's simple. Yes, they could have done better. They could have absolutely done better in multiple aspects of the game. It is so difficult, nearly impossible to do better it's nearly impossible to do better with the way that this game was called. It is nearly impossible. There's nothing you can do about it. The flagrant on Carr didn't make sense. It was a weak call. Can't blame officiating for losses. You guys can't play well away from Rupp. Again, I want to reiterate what I said earlier. Nobody's going to play well away from home this season. Maybe outside of Auburn. I've not taken a look at that Auburn-Texas score. Nobody in this conference is going to play well on the road this season. Mark it down. Throw the freaking sticker up, for crying out loud. It is not going to happen. The games are going to be called differently, and you just have to accept it. Nobody's going to play well. Case in point, the number one team in the nation going on the road to Florida tonight and getting 30-pieced. They didn't score 50. Tennessee didn't score 50. They got manhandled, and they were allowed to do so. Florida was allowed to do so. It's part of it.
From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Looking at the wild card round, the Vikings are slight favorites on the road against the Rams. They're falling hard to the Lions. The Vikings, they got to go to LA now as the 5 seed. Get Minnesota favored by 1.5. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Michigan's size was way too much.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins.
Oh boy, that's back-to-back losses for UCLA. They're now 11-4 on the year, losing to Michigan, who improves to 12-3, 4-0 in Big Ten plays. The Bruins fall to 2-2 after a 2-0 start back in December. Since the New Year's come, after the Bruins took down Gonzaga, they've beaten Arizona in neutral court, should have beaten North Carolina. And here they are with back-to-back humbling defeats in very different ways. The Bruins were introduced to the Big Ten life with thousands, tens of thousands of screaming fans in Lincoln, and the Bruins shot like it and they played like it. And then they come back home where the energy is clearly just not the same, although they brought it at most parts in Paul Pavilion. UCLA, they just got cooked. They lost 94-75. Now this game, you look at it and you're like, okay, Zach, you're telling me that Michigan went to UCLA and beat them by 20 and scored 94 points in Los Angeles? Yeah. And you're like, well, what are we doing here? Is this UCLA team just a fraud? Well, Michigan is arguably one of the worst mismatches for UCLA. One of the worst mismatches. When you've got like a 7-foot point guard, a 7-foot center who can make his free throws, jumpers, hit a three, and put in 36, that is just Mick Cronin's living nightmare with the roster he has constructed this year. That is one of the worst matchups. I knew Michigan would be a problem. I hoped UCLA and thought maybe they could beat Nebraska, but Eric Daly Jr. was unavailable. I'm not sure how much William Kyle could have made a difference in that game. No, everybody, including a banged-up Sky Clark, was available for this game today for UCLA. They got down 18 in the first half, right? UCLA makes the run, have full control and momentum, and they lose this game by 20. I'm not sure you can think of many games, especially in college basketball. NBA is a little different. Teams can get hot. You can get out of control real fast. In college basketball, there's not times where you're down 20 in the first half, you lose the game by 20, and yet you still feel like UCLA did some did some poor management when it came to subs and handling moments of the game where they had control, momentum, and the lead with less than half of the second half to play. And they lose this game by 20. Because there was that. They had Wolf in foul trouble. They had Golden in foul trouble. Heck, they had Jones in foul trouble. And one of Michigan's, I believe, third leading scorers didn't even play in this game, and they still put up 94. Well, when Trey Donaldson absolutely got on fire in that stretch, hitting 6 trays, literally living up to his name, the Bruins had no answers. When Michigan's going to go 15 of 28 from 3 and also score just as many points in the paint, or just dominating the points and the rebounding, I don't know what UCLA can do when they're severely undersized. He clearly doesn't trust Mata. And when UCLA had that stretch, Wolf went to the bench with 4 fouls. Golden went to the bench with 4 fouls. He had a Mara in the game shooting free throws to get it to like 6. He had all the momentum. UCLA had to lead, and then Wolf went to the bench. And then they hit a couple of threes. Then they're down 6 with the chance to go big on Michigan. So they had to lead. Wolf gets in foul trouble. The Bruins collapse for a few minutes there. Then they get Golden out of the game. Mata, I believe, hits 2 free throws to get to 6 points, get within 6 points of Michigan. And then next thing you know, the 7-3 Spaniard, when Michigan has no size on the floor, which is one of their that's their bread and butter. When they got a dude who can go one-hand passing, 6 assists, 8 rebounds, splash a couple of threes to the other big man, I don't know what you can do. They had Mata in there with Bilodeau in foul trouble, mind you, to maybe shore up the post. He puts in Kyle, and the first thing that happens, I'm not going to really blame Kyle for this, but the first thing that happens is Donaldson just splashes a 3 in his face and then just goes literally like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? Just going crazy with his 3-point shooting. And the Bruins have clearly no answer for that. I was thinking the first half, Michigan's going to win the national championship. That's how legitimate I thought Michigan was compared to this mismatch. I don't think UCLA is worse from this game. I just think if there's a team in the country that could match up really well, head west, beat UCLA, who, mind you, did have to travel and come back. Michigan's been on the West Coast for a full week now. That the Bruins, this is a terrible mismatch. This is still a Michigan team that on average turns it over 15 times. So they turned it over 16 times. The Bruins turned it into 20 points off turnovers. What's a funny stat, though, UCLA turned it over 6 times in this game. There's 2 telling stats in this game. UCLA turned it over 6 times. So if you think about poor decision-making offensively when it comes to just giving up the basketball, the Bruins didn't necessarily do that. They were just hindered because of Michigan's size all around. That's how Dusty May has created this roster. A really good one-year turnaround after they were horrible last year, Michigan team that was losing to Long Beach State last year at home. They were losing to all these teams at home, and now they're completely different with a new staff, new roster. So they forced only 6 UCLA turnovers, okay? They produced 12 points off those turnovers. So basically, every time Michigan got a turnover, they're getting a bucket out of that. They're getting a bucket. UCLA had 20 points off 16 turnovers. That's a really good number for what UCLA needed to do in this game and how they had to come back and claw and scrap and claw and fight back in this game. So that meant in a category where UCLA was plus 10 in turnovers, generally you want about 1 point per turnover, right? 6 points for 6 points. You know, that's a really good marker Michigan had. UCLA should have been at least plus 15 plus points off turnovers. They're only plus 8 in a stat that they practically dominated. Michigan still kept it close. Another thing, you're like, UCLA shot 34 free throws. Maybe Michigan fans are up in arms about that, right? And you're like, well, that's not a thing. No, Michigan teams that play Michigan, on average, they shoot like 16 free throws against Michigan. Now, Michigan, because they're so big, will foul you a lot and also shoot a lot of free throws. So in this game, Michigan went 15 of 21. UCLA went 23 of 34. I don't know what's worse, but I think one of the things I despise most about this team is UCLA shooting free throws. It is just so bad. You knew it was bad when Stefanovic had an answer with an and one of his 2 made buckets in this game. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Stefanovic missed his first free throw all season. That's when you knew the Bruins were down bad in this game. When the guy you could trust the most, and you know, he's going to miss 1 free throw, but the guy who's been making all his free throws misses 1 on an and one that maybe can answer a Michigan bucket. No, he missed a free throw. UCLA missed 11 free throws. And I was thinking, to beat Michigan, they need to get cold from 3, which they did. And they still made more than 50%. You needed to turn them over. They did. Not enough, not nearly enough to balance out the size mismatch for UCLA. With what they average forced turnovers wise, that's generally less than what the Bruins force. Michigan was on their season's average and how much they turn the basketball over on offense. And the Bruins, you have to capitalize at the free throw line. If they make free throws in certain stages of those games, that changes it, right? And I look at these numbers, they're not shooting horribly in certain guys. Like Johnson shot 10 free throws. He made 7 of 10. Sebastian Mack, 5 of 7. But these guys collectively, when you've missed 11, you could hear the groans on the broadcast. You could hear the groans. You're just like, oh, every time Golden touched the ball, oh no, here's a bucket. And then UCLA missing free throws, and 2 of 20 from downtown is not going to cut it. Every time UCLA has beaten a good team, they have shot the ball well, they have played with the lead, they have lost it, and it's great to see they had the fight. I don't know how you can't love this team with the fight that they have to get back in it. It just wasn't enough.
Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
Oh, I'm sorry. The portal news was over? Did we finish all the portal news, Clint? No, we did not.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldog.
You will have guys entering the portal because they don't like competition. You have guys entering the portal because they want a bag and their current school is not paying them because they have somebody better at the position. Or you have guys entering the portal because they want some of the bag that their school currently does have,
Just to see.
and they
Just see what's going on.
want to see.
Yeah.
Enter Damon Wilson.
Sometimes you hear about a party, Clint, that's going on.
We don't hear, by the way, we don't hear of these parties, you and I, but other people do.
I said you in a more philosophical sense.
I understand. Not a literal sense.
Sometimes you hear about a party going on and you know some of the people that are there. It seems like some of the people, at least, are having a good time. Some of the reports that you hear about the situation are positive. And so you want to just go check it out for yourself. Sometimes you get there and you decide, you know what, this is great. I'm going to stay here. And sometimes you get there and you go, I think I'll go home now because this ain't the party for me. Let's not use the words, Georgia fans. It just doesn't make sense about the transfer portal. Could we just enter into a contract, you and I, Georgia fans, where we won't say to each other, boy, Damon Wilson headed into the portal. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, I just don't get it. Damon Wilson. I mean, we're losing so many guys on the edge. Mike Kell's off to the NFL. Chaz is probably, who knows about eligibility? We talked about that yesterday. But Chaz, it seems like we're losing all these guys on the edge. Seems like Damon Wilson is going to have a pivotal role on this team. It's the transfer portal, guys. It's not supposed to make sense. You don't know what's happening. You don't know all the factors that are going on. You don't know about the financial situation. You don't know about what's been said behind closed doors. You don't know about what is known in the program about who's coming and who's going and who's staying. You don't know about the relationships and the connections that might exist outside of UJ.
There it is.
There are 100 million reasons why anyone could have a reason to dabble in the transfer portal, at least right now, while it's completely unregulated.
You get a tight end who says, I got to go home to be closer to family and a grandma who's sick. Great. Go do that. I want to go play with my brother somewhere. Fantastic. I want to make $6 million because I don't know if I'm going to be cutting in the NFL because, this just in, it's a hard place to do that.
What do they say about the bird in the hand, Clint? I mean, if somebody's offering you that bag right now, you and I have been open on this podcast. We're not going to shame anyone for doing anything that's not unethical to provide for themselves. Like, that's exactly what is happening out there. Now, do we know the Damon Wilson situation? No, we do not. Here's what we do know from a football standpoint. Damon Wilson has not signed with another school at the time of this recording.
And being in the portal, very quick, being in the portal means nothing other than you can declare no contact or contact, meaning schools can talk to you if they want contact, or no contact, meaning no schools contact me, but I will approach you. All he is saying is, I might want to talk.
I'm open to talking.
The DMs are open.
So he hasn't signed with another school yet, which does not mean that he is out at Georgia. So if player hits the portal does not mean that he's out at Georgia. Second point. Yes, Georgia lost a lot on the edge this offseason. Georgia's got some talented guys in that room, but Damon Wilson does figure, if he's on campus next year, to be a pivotal piece of the Georgia defense moving forward.
Michael Williams, NFL. Jalen Walker, NFL. Couple of the defensive linemen, Christian Miller coming back, just got that announced. We have dudes moving on, graduation, seniority, or draft declaring he was the next dude in line.
What I'm trying to say is this would be a significant loss. If he were to go on and transfer to another institution, this would be a significant loss for Georgia, and you just got to own that.
There's no other way around this. He does, in fact, get in the portal. Somebody drops a bag. Somebody tells him to come play, and he does move on. The edge defender, right? This last year, we had Chaz Chambliss with the most improved play on the outside. We love Chaz, but if he's your best player, not great.
Here we go.
We're losing all the experience. And if then the guys behind him, Damon Wilson, Gabe Harris, guys like him, they don't come back, it's a tough scene for UGA on the edge next year if this hits. So my guess, here's my guess
go ahead.
on him. My guess on him, my take on him, with all that graduating and draft eligible talent going elsewhere, my guess is this is Damon Wilson saying, let me get some of that. Now, this just in as well, Georgia has that to give. Like, you know what I'm saying? The Branch brothers came.
Stay tuned for segment 2 because several people get in that bag.
Georgia has it to give. Branch brothers came because Kirby ain't playing no more. He said, okay, Bobo, okay, Gunner, let's go play. Let's go get the most elite speed that we can on the outside, no matter what. And people call him slot X. Like, here's the deal. In Mike Bobo's offense, you're required to do every single route tree possible. So please just stop with the Branch thing that he's just a slot guy. Like, again, lazy take, please, for the love.
Yeah. You know who else just a slot guy? Ladd McConkey, according to NFL executives.
Okay. Damon Wilson was a dude that can play edge against the run as well as get after the passer. My guess is he wants some of that action. He dipped in to make his intentions because it's the only leverage that you have as a player right now. Like, it's without regulation, without anything else. You must play the power game, and this is a power game. My anticipation is that he'll be back into Georgia. He'll be spoken to. Kirby will convince him to come stay, get the NIL, and move on. Who knows if I'm right?
Let me play the other side of that coin for a second, though. If he doesn't come back to Georgia, can we agree on something else? I mean, I'm trying to make a lot of pacts. I'm trying to make a lot of blood oaths on this episode. That's what I'm going to call it, blood oath.
Okay.
Blood oaths with Daniel.
Yep. Nope. New segment title.
Listen, well, sorry, it's already written. It's already in there. I think I saw it go across the ticker at the bottom. I can't change it at this point. Could we agree to stop beating our chest that no one who transfers out of UGA is ever successful at all? Like, as if, like, do you really need that?
I don't.
We won the national championship in 2021 and 2022.
Yep.
We're a dominant program in college football right now. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. We have the best coach in all of college football.
Correct.
Like, Georgia's not going away. You don't need to win everything. So stop saying everyone who transfers out of Georgia is a bum.
The kicker from down under is on the team because sometimes you just have to punt in life, and that's okay.
It's objectively not true, first of all. It's just objectively a false take. Now, did Georgia cry themselves to sleep when Jermaine Burton left? No, they didn't. Is Jermaine Burton a pretty good wide receiver? Yeah, he is. He's an NFL wide receiver right now, like a pretty good NFL wide receiver.
Currently, he's not. Just he is currently not. But sorry. Let us with Daniel.
Pretty good wide receiver. Georgia's had really successful players leave the program. If Damon Wilson leaves, it will be a significant loss for the University of Georgia. And you could try to spin that if it helps you sleep at night. I'm just trying to tell you, you should sleep fine at night. You're a Georgia fan. People would kill to be where you are right now.
Two things true. Significant hit, and also, I think we'll be okay.
I think we'll be okay.